Shabbat Shalom, family. Our selection today is Swing Low, Sweet Cherry.
Swing low, sweet chariot, coming forth to carry me home. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming forth to carry me home. I looked over Jordan, and what did I see? Coming forth to carry me home. A man of angels coming after me, coming forth to carry me home. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming forth to carry me home. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming forth to carry me home. Have you given before I do? Coming forth to carry me home. Tell all my friends I'm coming too. Coming forth to carry me home. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming forth to carry me home. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming forth to carry me home. I'm sometimes up and sometimes down, coming forth to carry me home. But still my soul is Zion bound, coming forth to carry me home. Swing low,
The oracles of the UCI. 1 Peter chapter 4, verses 7 through 11. But the end of all things is at hand. Be you therefore sober, and watch unto prayer. And above all things have fervent love among yourselves, for love shall cover the multitude of sins. Use hospitality one to another without grudging. As every man has received the gift, even so minister the same one to another as good stewards of the manifold grace of Elohim. If any man speak, let him speak as the oracles of Elohim. If any man minister, let him do it as of the ability which Elohim gives, that Elohim in all things may be glorified through Yahshua the Mashiach, to whom be praise and dominion forever and ever. Amen. Ephesians chapter 4, verses 29 through chapter 5 and verse 4. Let no corrupt communication proceed out of your mouth, but that which is good to the use of edifying, that it may minister grace unto the hearers. And grieve not the Holy Spirit of Elohim, whereby you're sealed until the day of redemption. Let all bitterness and wrath and anger and clamor and evil speaking be put away from you with all malice. And be you kind one to another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, even as Elohim for Yahshua's sake has forgiven you. Be you therefore followers of Elohim, as dear children, and walk in love, as the Mashiach also have loved us, and has given himself for us, an offering and sacrifice to Elohim for a sweet-smelling savor. But fornication and all uncleanness or covetousness, let it not be once named among you as becomes saints. Neither filthiness, nor foolish talking, nor jesting, which are not convenient, but rather giving of thanks. Ecclesiastes chapter 5, verses 1 and 2. Keep your foot when you go to the house of Elohim, and be more ready to hear than to give the sacrifice of fools, for they consider not that they do evil. Be not rash with your mouth, and let not your heart be hasty to utter anything before Elohim. For Elohim is in heaven, and you upon earth, therefore let your words be few. Exodus chapter 23, verses 20 and 21. Behold, I send an angel before you to keep you in the way, and to bring you into the place which I have prepared. Beware of him and obey his voice. Provoke him not, for he will not pardon your transgressions, for my name is in him. Revelations chapter 3, verses 20 through 22. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If any man hear my voice and open the door, I will come in to him and will sup with him, and he with me. To him that overcomes will I grant to sit with me in my throne, even as I have also overcame and am sat down with my Father in his throne. He that has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says unto the churches.
All right, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Which is peace on Yahweh's holy Sabbath day. Welcome to another holy convocation that Yahweh has enjoined unto us here in Stone Mountain, Georgia. As we know, things upon the earth are very much so changing right in front of us. And we're going to have to get down to some basics of being able to entreat our Elohim in the correct manner. A lot of times we get comfortable in the things that we can do as far as going and serving on the Sabbath day, keeping the Sabbath day. But what happens when we get to that place where we can't get that peace anymore, when we can't go and watch a class because all the power's out? You know, what happens when we get to that quiet place? Because what ends up happening is Yahweh does some things to move us closer to him. In our own hearts and minds, we believe that we could truly be close to Yahweh while having all of these things. And we don't really see that a lot of that hinders us. You know, we can't do this because we need to do that. We can't do this over here that we were supposed to do because we need to do this. Well, when all of those things are taken away, the only thing that's left is the things that we need to do for Yahweh, our Elohim. So we have to get ready to prepare ourselves. Coming out of the wilderness was a coming into the wilderness, coming out of Egypt, was a tumultuous time for Israel. You have to, understand that these people were exceptionally busy doing, even though they were being worked to death. It passes the time, and then you come out of there having all of these responsibilities, and then they're antsy. You know, you oftentimes you read that and you wonder, like, you know, what was wrong with these people? I mean, you know, they come out of Egypt and they're just troublesome. They're accustomed to working all day long. And now they're just sitting around looking at one another. And they're just, you know, they're antsy. They're well, let's do this. Let's do this. And next thing you know, they're like, let's appoint us a captain so we can go back. And we don't consider how much we work here. You know, the system has been set up in such a way that our people get most of the tedious labor jobs. You're going to find some jobs that you won't see anybody but us doing those jobs, because those jobs are difficult and they take up a lot of your time. And we've gotten accustomed to that. That's normal. Matter of fact, we pride ourselves in how much we go to work and make it to the place where we're able to provide for our families. So you're going to have two things that go on. When a man who has defined himself by the ability to take care of his family no longer has that ability, and he doesn't have anything else to keep him busy, we're going to have a lot of man feelings going on coming out of Babylon. Because remember, Yahweh is at the same time trying to get Israel's attention. He then cut off our food coming out and gave us the same thing, eating it over and over. He's trying to purge Israel from some things. We didn't see that. We lashed out on our leaders. Okay? This shows you the makeup of what happens, you know, when we start going through things. So we have to get ourselves prepared inside for these events. I mean, you can stack up food, you can stack up all of these things, but at the end of the day, when it comes time to move, you can only take what you can carry. All right? And the things that you got to carry the most with you is going to be on the inside. And we have to prepare ourselves for that. So today's sermon is entitled Prayers and Supplication, and we're going to begin in Matthew 6 and verse 5. Matthew chapter 6, and we're going to start that at verse 5.
And when you pray, you shall not be as the hypocrites are, for they love to pray standing in the synagogues and in the corners of the streets, that they may be seen of men. Verily I say unto you, they have their reward.
Right, and we've all seen the pictures of the people so-called going to the Wailing Wall, knocking their head up against the wall, praying, writing prayers on pieces of paper and sticking them in the holes in the wall, and it's a big show. That's not what's pleasing unto your Elohim. You need to understand that. And a lot of times we get caught up in the show and not understand what things are pleasing to the Elohim that we serve. Go ahead.
But you, when you prayeth, enter into your closet, and when you have shut your door, pray to your Father which is in secret, and your Father which sees in secret shall reward you openly. But when you pray, use not vain repetitions, as the heathen do, for they think that they shall be heard for their much speaking.
So then this turns into chanting. See? Now we're going to take the prayer and make it a chant. And now you're moving over into some things where other gods are worshipped. And if you're not careful, people will entice you to do some things that are like some things that they have done before in the worshiping of other gods. So you have to be very careful about that. So Yahshua is giving instructions, and you have to think about the commandments. When Yahweh gave the commandments, he said what? Don't do all of these things. Then, if you pay attention, he said, because these are the things that all the nations that I'm removing did before you got there. So he didn't just imagine these things. He watched these individuals and watched what was happening in Canaan land before it became Israel. He said, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, because this is what all these people did who were here before you. And I'm removing them. Go ahead.
Be not you therefore like unto them, for your Father knows what things you have need of before you ask him.
All right, now, and that right there is a heavy thing about trying to understand prayer, because most of the approaching unto Elohim is about how we do it and the humbleness in which we approach. When you come to ask, he already knows not only what you should be asking for, because a lot of times we go to our God and we will ask for one thing and we're supposed to be asking for something else. So we have already tainted the prayer, because he's watching us as we approach, saying, now you gonna pray to me about this, but I know good and well what you just had an encounter with 2 days before, but you're not gonna mention that. So understand, this goes both ways. When he knows what things you have need of, he also knows the situations that's going on in our hearts and minds. And then we get down to pray and we don't mention that. Go ahead.
After this manner, therefore, pray you. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name.
So then we're going to first entreat our Elohim by name. So then this is a model, all right? So then where I start off, Abba Father, Most High, Covenant Elohim of Abraham, Esaac, and Yaakov, Yahweh, my Elohim. I need to first of all make sure I said it straight who I'm talking to. As it is written, there are gods many. The adversary of the devil is a god. He's an angel with much power. Remember, he says, if somebody have enough power to tell Yahshua, I can give you all these things. You see all this? It is given to me, and I give it unto whom I will. If you have that much power, then he could also grant you your prayers as well. So you want to make sure when you are offering up your prayers, that you make sure you let it be known to all those that hear in the spiritual realm. I ain't talking to you, devil. I'm not talking to you. Remember, the adversary of the devil knew everything about Job. Yahweh wasn't telling him anything about Job. He already knew about Job. What he also knew is that there was a hedge of protection round about Job, so he couldn't touch him. But he knew him. He saw the money that he had. He saw all of those things. That's why he was able to say, you take all this stuff, he's going to curse you to your face. Go ahead.
Your kingdom come, your will be done in earth as it is in heaven.
Your will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Do we submit ourselves to his will? And what happens is our will sometimes gets in the way. Most of the time gets in the way. Because we assume that our will is his will. We assume that this is a good thing, so Yahweh must want that. So anytime we come to a point of discomfort in our life, we believe, or we want to believe, this cannot be Yahweh's will. But what we don't see at that point is the peaceable fruit of righteousness that's going to come from you encountering that thing. The growth that it's going to bring you. All we think about is the current moment of discomfort. Go ahead.
You know, you're talking about prayer. In the opening prayer, I mentioned something about, allowing Yahweh to let us be mindful that this is his day, because it's going to be a long day for a lot of us. When it's done, Brother Michelle was like, I'm glad you said that, man, because I've been thinking about this day. Because like you were talking about earlier, idle hands is the devil's workshop.
Right.
So with this long day, a lot of people going to be fumbling, stumbling, trying to figure out what to do. Because like you mentioned earlier, we don't know how to sit still.
Right. And we use each other to help sit still. Okay? So it's easy when we come here, but what we got to do is think about what our brothers and sisters go through who are spread all across the country and outside of the country. Those that have, like, they're the only Hebrews in their town.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And we take it for granted being able to come and fellowship with one another. What does that do? That help you pass the time on the Sabbath day. See? Then you got you have other people that are going through, that Sabbath day is long for them.
Mm-hmm.
We look up, we so busy doing things, before we know it, the Sabbath over, and we still hanging sometime 11, 12 o'clock at night. But think about if you sitting there by yourself, that's a long day. And those are the things that we have to get ready to prepare ourselves for. And believe it or not, some of our extended family that are in other places, Yahweh is preparing them already for that. Although they would love to be amongst us, they are being prepared in a form and fashion that we have not been prepared. Go ahead.
Matthew chapter 6 and verse 11. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors.
So what we're going to do then is understand, as we are asking our Elohim for forgiveness, we have to also have a forgiving heart as well. Because it then turns our prayer into hypocrisy when we ask for forgiveness but are not willing to give that forgiveness. Now, this doesn't mean that we're going to go around and let everybody walk all over us. That's not what this means. But we have to be in a position that if somebody repents, that we have to be able to, this don't mean that we're going to hang out together. Don't get it twisted. This don't mean that, what I'm saying, this means that, we can even this slate off. I'm going to have, peace with you type thing. This don't mean we hanging out. But we have to be in that place where if somebody repents, that we are able to offer forgiveness, the same type of forgiveness that we are praying for. Otherwise, we are already, this is another level of tainting our own prayer. Go ahead.
And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For yours is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever. Amen. For if you forgive men their trespasses, your heavenly Father will also forgive you.
Right. So even as he's saying this earlier in how to pray, now he's giving the instruction of why he said that. So you can't just say the prayer is supposed to help lead your heart into dealing with those things. But if we're going to pray only from a position of what I need, what I want, what I desire, what my house need, what my house desire, what my house want, and we're not going to think about, hey, somebody else's house needs that same thing. Now, do you step on theirs to get yours? Go ahead.
But if you forgive not men their trespasses, neither will your Father forgive your trespasses.
So then we have that thing where our model of doing things giving us by Yahshua pushes us to deal with these things in equity. And if we don't, then we are hindering our prayers. So I want to read a couple of definitions here on prayer and supplication. And you'll notice that basically they are the same, but then they grow just a little in difference here as you get down into it. Go ahead, brother. Read the first definition for prayer.
Prayer, H8605. Tefillah, from H6419. Intercession, supplication, by implication a hymn, prayer.
All right. The next one.
Pray, H6419. Palal, a primitive root to judge officially or mentally, by extension to intercede, pray, entreat, judge, judgment, make, pray, prayer, praying, make supplication.
All right. So now we're going to deal with supplication. Go ahead.
From H8467, tekena. From H2603, graciousness, causatively, entreaty, favor, grace, supplication.
So these are things that we are asking for, but then the most common word used for supplication is this next one. Go ahead.
H2470, kalau. A primitive root compared to H2342, H2490, properly to be rubbed or worn, hence figuratively to be weak, sick, afflicted, or causatively to grieve, make sick, also to stroke and flattering, entreat, beseech, be diseased, put to grief, be grieved, be grievous, infirmity, entreat, lay to, put to pain, pray, make pray.
So now, as you see the things for prayer and pray, but when you get down to the meat of supplication, it is affliction involved as you get to this point. So now things are growing in a way in which the affliction causes a different prayer. See, we all believe that we can do, or that we could approach unto our Elohim perfectly every time. But there's something about affliction that does a little more for your supplication. It does a little more for your prayer. Like Job said, before I have heard of you, now I know you. It's a difference. Go ahead.
Befall, make sick, sore, be sorry, make suit, supplication, woman in travail, become weak, be wounded. And
that is a whole lot there when you get down to the meat. So you talk about prayers. You often wonder sometimes if you read, like, why would they say prayers and supplication if supplication is a prayer too? Then you get down to the meat of supplication and you start finding out, oh, no, it's some affliction up in here. When you start finding, because when you read the definition of pray and prayer, you run into supplication. So then you say, okay, it must be the same thing. Then you get into the definition of supplication and find all of this heaviness. Matter of fact, when you read the definition of supplication, it is longer than all the three other definitions we read together. So then there is something to that. It's not just prayers and supplication are basically the same thing. They are, but they are not. So understand that there's a little difference there. Let's go to 1 Samuel chapter 1. First Samuel chapter 1, and we're going to start that at verse 1.
Now there was a certain man of Ramathaim Zophim, of Mount Ephraim, and his name was Elkanah, the son of Uraham, the son of Elihu, the son of Tohu, the son of Zuph, an Ephrathite.
Right. So that first verse was his lineage. So you have to understand how the scripture does things. All right. So this is the breakdown of his lineage of who he is as a man. There was a certain man of Ramathaim Zophim of Mount Ephraim, and his name was Elkanah, the son of Jeroham, the son of Elihu, the son of Tohu, the son of Zuph, an Ephrathite. You now have his lineage. There's enough generations listed there that you won't get him confused with anybody else. You might have 15 people in one village named Elkanah. But they won't have the same daddies, same granddaddy, same great-granddaddy. So this is how the scripture operates. Go ahead.
You know, and if you don't understand that, it's like when I was on Bible study, I was talking about them two Hebrew groups going together, and one was asking, you can't find genealogy in the Bible. Show me where genealogy is in the Bible. I'm like, man, y'all are so stupid.
Man, it's everywhere. It is absolutely everywhere. We haven't even began to read this. It starts off with genealogy. You know, it starts off. But one of the reasons, you know, people are going to fuss and argue about genealogy, which is why, you know, you find in the New Testament, look, avoid that. Avoid. You're going to spend all your time dealing with genealogy, and Yahweh is the only one that can thoroughly draw these lines.
They say gender strife.
You know, you messing with something that you can't possibly deal with anyway. Go ahead.
He had 2 wives. The name of the one was Hannah, and the name of the other Peninnah. And Peninnah had children, but Hannah had no children. And this man went up out of his city yearly to worship and to sacrifice unto Yahweh of hosts in Shiloh. And the 2 sons of Eli, Hophni and Phinehas, the priest of Yahweh, were there. And when the time was that Elkanah offered, he gave to Peninnah his wife, and to all her sons and her daughters portions. But unto Hannah he gave a worthy portion, for he loved Hannah, but Yahweh had shut up her womb.
Now, there's certain things that we would like to believe that we would do on our own. But there's certain hardships that have to come in your life that actually move you to pray the prayer that he needs you to pray. Go ahead.
And her adversary also provoked her sore, for to make her fret, because Yahweh had shut up her womb.
Right. So this began, you have to look at a situation. You know, it's not like, you know, these women are fighting over him. These women have the thought process that a woman is supposed to provide, you know, a seed for a man. At this point, when she doesn't or hasn't up to now, and this is our thought process, we get to counting our own mortality. We look at our time. You know, we don't believe that Yahweh has the power to give us something in our old age. We start counting our time on our own, you know. And when we look around and we don't have anything, we start moving and thinking. So you can tell that, you know, her sister wife has become her adversary because she is basically poking fun at her that, why don't you have any children? Go ahead.
And as he did so year by year, when she went up to the house of Yahweh, so she provoked her. Therefore she wept and did not eat. Then said Elkanah her husband to her, Hannah, why weepeth you? And why eateth you not? And why is your heart grieved? Am I not better to you than 10 sons?
So he knew what the issue was. He knew. He's asking her why, but it's a rhetorical question. He knows why. Go ahead.
So Hannah rose up after they had eaten in Shiloh, and after they had drunk. Now Eli the priest sat upon a seat by a post of the temple of Yahweh. And she was in bitterness of soul, and prayed unto Yahweh, and wept sore. And she vowed a vow, and said, O Yahweh of hosts, if you will indeed look on the affliction of your handmaid, and remember me, and not forget your handmaid, but will give unto your handmaid a man-child, then I'll give him unto Yahweh all the days of his life, and there shall no razor come upon his head.
So, at this point, understand something. The affliction of the sister wife is very important here. Who's to say that she prays this prayer without this affliction? What if she's actually nice to her about her not having a child? As they're making, you know, these appearances, it grieves her each time because she doesn't have anything. And each time, her sister pounces on her. And it moves her heart to a place. And now, she starts opening her mouth. And, you know, we could look and say, okay, well, I mean, each time she came up, she wanted to provide a seed, but she has two things. She wants to provide a seed, but then there's also the affliction that comes. And the affliction is obviously not open. It's crafty affliction. Go ahead.
You know, even when you look at verse 11, what it say, when you pray amiss. That means you just praying all generally.
Mm-hmm.
But we can see that affliction made her get specific with things.
Oh, yes.
She even put something on this child before he even born, put a Nazarite vow on him.
Oh. Let me tell you something. She has gone on a level of she wants something so bad that she's actually willing to give it up. That's a whole nother level right there. See, when we want something, we want it. We're praying for the thing. She's praying for the thing so she can get back the thing. Go ahead.
And it came to pass, as she continued praying before Yahweh, that Eli marked her mouth. Now Hannah, she spake in her heart, only her lips moved, but her voice was not heard. Therefore Eli thought she had been drunken.
I mean, everybody else is enjoying themselves. You know, why would he not think that she's drunk? Go ahead.
And Eli said unto her, How long will you be drunken? Put away your wine from you. And Hannah answered and said, No, my master, I am a woman of sorrowful spirit. I have drunk neither wine nor strong drink, but have poured out my soul before Yahweh. Count not your handmaid for a daughter of Belial, for out of the abundance of my complaint and grief have I spoken hitherto.
Mm-hmm.
Then Eli answered and said, Go in peace, and Elohim of Israel grant you your petition that you have asked of him.
He don't even know the petition. He didn't ask. But see, the grieving went from one thing to another thing. Now it looks like she's drunken. It has now gotten her in the position of talking to the high priest. The high priest has now said, Elohim grant you your petition. But if it wasn't for the affliction, her supplication doesn't go on that level. Go ahead.
And she said, Let your handmaid find grace in your sight. So the woman went her way and did eat, and her countenance was no more sad.
Now, her countenance has changed. Now she can eat. So now she has fasted, she has prayed, and then has had the high priest say, Elohim grant you a petition. So then it was meant for him to look at her and think that she had been drunken. So he can jump off and say something and then retract his statement. But all of this is coming because of her affliction. Go ahead.
And they rose up in the morning early, and worshipped before Yahweh, and returned, and came to their house to Ramah. And Elkanah knew Hannah his wife, and Yahweh remembered her. Wherefore it came to pass, when the time was come about after Hannah had conceived, that she bare a son, and called his name Samuel, saying, Because I have asked him of Yahweh.
Because I have asked him of Yahweh, I'm going to name him a name that speaks that I have asked. Now consider her sister who grieved her. It was during these trips that she was being grieved. Now consider how Yahweh deals with things. The part in which she was grieved is going to be the part in which she is made strong. See, I tell people half the time I'll look up and I might be upset about something that I'm going through something or it seems like something is being taken from me. That is the very method in which Yahweh is going to bless me. So she's getting tormented on these trips, right? Okay, these trips gonna turn for Hannah. Oh, these trips about to turn. The very trips that she was getting afflicted on, now she finna be the big mama on campus. Go ahead.
Yeah, because I was going to say, that's the same thought process I was having, because now when you afflicted her on these trips, now every time you go on these trips, you're going to have to see this boy.
You got to see her boy. And then it's going to grow, because now your folks going to have to go and bow down and make supplication in front of her boy. Right. So that's why you have to be careful what it is you do. Go ahead.
And the man Elkanah and all his house went up to offer unto Yahweh the yearly sacrifice and his vow.
Right. See, the same trip where she was always afflicted. We going up to make our appearance. You ain't got nobody with you. Go ahead.
But Hannah went not up, for she said unto her husband, I will not go up until the child be weaned, and then I'll bring him, that he may appear before Yahweh, and there abide forever.
So his appearance gonna be it. Now, understand something. I mean, there's some pretty strong stuff, and Elkanah is a righteous man. Understand something. She ain't asked him none of this stuff now. Anybody recall a conversation being had with Elkanah at all? She told him, look, this is what I told Elohim. Well, if that's what you told him, then that's what it is. Then that's what we got to do. Well, no renegotiation. You said what? Yeah. And that, he got sense enough. No, well, then that's how you conceived then. Well, then that's all right. Go ahead.
And Elkanah, her husband, said unto her, do what seems you good. Tarry until you have weaned him. Only Yahweh establish his word.
You hear that? You hear that? This is what came out your mouth. This is what we gonna do. I know how much you wanted a son. You promised Elohim. All right? I'm gonna let you stay here now and wean the boy. But when we come back, next time we come here, that stuff that came out your mouth, we gonna do. Because even though you ain't asked me before you said none of this, Yahweh has granted you your petition. And if I held back unto my Elohim, he gonna deal with this whole house. Not just you and me. Go ahead.
So the woman abode and gave her son suck until she weaned him. And when she had weaned him, she took him up with her, with 3 bullocks and 1 ephah of flour and a bottle of wine, and brought him unto the house of Yahweh in Shiloh. And the child was young. And they slew a bullock, and brought the child to Eli. And she said, O my master, as your soul lives, my master, I am the woman that stood by you here, praying unto Yahweh. For this child I prayed, and Yahweh has given me my petition which I asked of him. Therefore also I have lent him to Yahweh. As long as he lives, he shall be lent to Yahweh. And he worshipped Yahweh there.
Now, you have to look at the levels, the affliction that was used to cause the prayer and supplication that she was pushed to utter. Not only helped her, but helped Yahweh. Because at this point, Yahweh is about to deal with Eli. And he's using her prayer. See, sometimes we're so tunnel visioned when we ask for something. What we have to understand is, okay, you ask for something or you make a petition of Yahweh. Who's going to benefit from that other than you? That's not something that we even consider. So then you get to this point. Hannah asks for this. Hannah takes this man child. She was very specific, like my brother said. Gives this child back. He grows up. He doesn't grow up and turn into a priest like everybody else. He is raised in the house of the priest. Matter of fact, he then becomes better than the priest's sons. Okay? So understand, what's happening here. So Yahweh is going to benefit from Hannah's prayer, because now he actually gets a child that is going to be reared up, and he's going to see Eli's doing. He's going to learn the word, and he's going to see Eli's sons doing. See, sometimes you're getting an education. Even bad stuff is an education. So Samuel is watching all of this. Now, he's a little boy, so he can't say nothing. So he's learning bit by bit. This is what it said, but this is what they did. This is what it said. This is what he did. This is what it said. Now, and he's slowly doing that until Yahweh calls him. And understand, by this thing that was given unto Hannah, Hannah was able to conceive. In the next chapter, in verse 21, it says, and Yahweh visited Hannah so that she conceived and bare 3 sons and 2 daughters. And the child Samuel grew before Yahweh. So not only now does Hannah keep making this yearly sacrifice trip, now she makes it with children, and now everybody get to stand and watch her child up there with the priest. But what got her there? Affliction. It made a absolutely deep supplication. So you might want to be careful that your affliction towards somebody may be pushing them to get the best thing that they have ever gotten in their life. Go ahead, bro.
I was just going to say, it also speaks volumes for Elkanah, because we know that a man has the right to disannul a vow on the day he hears it. But are we listening for righteous vows compared to what you feel and believe? Because he could have been like, man, I
want this son with me.
No.
Yeah, this will be, the son that broke the matrix from you. This will be the firstborn. No,
from the one he's in love with.
You know what I'm saying? No, you can't give him away. I got special plans with him. He could have got all of his feelings, So we have to consider that all the way around. Now, without pain, our prayers are superficial and only include the things that we desire from Elohim. The prayers of our enslaved ancestors, created of broken speech and improper grammar, were purer in heart than ours are today. Their prayers came from a place of pain. Supplication comes from a place of lacking. When we have, but we want more, we think we lack. Our ancestors truly lacked. They lacked education. They lacked adequate housing. They lacked financial and physical protection, and so on and so on. And many times they lacked hope. Their lack did not come from a place of abundance, wherein their lack was based upon the possession of others that were around them. Without pain, we often make requests of Elohim, while never offering anything in return. Hannah prayed from a place of her lack. Her prayer was so pure that she offered up the very thing that she lacked and prayed for. She prayed that if you give it to me, I will give it back to you. You cannot get more pure than that. Let's go to Psalms 102. See, when we pray from a place of lacking, we are praying that we may have that thing. She just needed to know that she had the thing in her mind. That's it. I don't have to have the boy here with me. I just need to know that I got a boy. That's it. I'll see him when I go to the temple. See, that's different. But without all of the previous situations, does that prayer happen? Psalm 102, and let's start at verse 1.
Hear my prayer, O Yahweh, and let my cry come unto you. Hide not your face from me in the day when I am in trouble. Incline your ear unto me in the day when I call answer me speedily.
Right. Now, but if he does that, what are we going to do when he needs something from us? You have to think about how annoying it is when you try to tell a child to do something and the child keep talking and wants to get more and more instruction. Son, go take out the trash. Well, why am I taking it out now? I mean, the trash man. Son, grab the trash and take the trash up to the hill. Well, I don't understand why we're doing that. Look, man, ain't nobody got time to explain to you everything. Just follow your instructions. But then when we need something, we want Elohim to come to us speedily. But how speedily do we do the things that he needs for us to do? How speedily do we do that? Are we negotiating? Well, wait a minute, Yahweh. I mean, why don't we let it get a little warmer? It's kind of cold out there. Maybe if you will, like, warm it up can you warm it up maybe like another 15, 20 degrees? And give me some of those fluffy socks, some of the real fluffy ones. And then I'll tell you what, I might go out there, maybe, in a decent time, not too cold, not too hot. What? But when we're sick, I need you to come here right now, immediately. I need you to be here yesterday. Okay. But do you offer yesterday when he needs from you? See, Hannah was about that. She didn't know if she was going to get any more kids. For all she know, that was all she was going to get. And this is like the woman who had the 2 mites. She gave all that she had. At the point that she gave up Samuel, she gave up all that she had. She had nothing else. She got her increase on the back end. Our problem is we want the increase right now. And after we get the increase, then we want to give to Elohim. Right. Then your faith lacks. You ain't got the kind of faith that Hannah got. You don't have that kind of faith. She gave not knowing that she was going to get more children. She didn't ask for more children. What she asked for was a man-child. That's what she asked for, and he gave it to her. Covenant complete. That was him that offered additional things on the back end. She didn't ask for those other things. And she didn't know she was going to get it. So do you keep the covenant that you made with your Elohim only if he gives you stuff? Go ahead, bro.
For my days are consumed like smoke, and my bones are burnt as in hearth. My heart is smitten and withered like grass, so that I forget to eat my bread.
And you're going through something when you forget to eat your bread. Hey, I can tell you going through something when you forget to eat your bread. Go ahead.
By reason of the voice of my groaning, my bones cleave to my skin. I'm like a pelican of the wilderness. I'm like an owl of the desert. I watch and am as a sparrow alone upon the housetop. Mine enemies reproach me all the day, and they that are mad against me are sworn against me. For I have eaten ashes like bread and mingled my drink with weeping, because of your indignation and your wrath. For you have lifted me up and cast me down. My days are like a shadow that declines, and I am withered like grass. But you, O Yahweh, shall endure forever, your remembrance unto all generations. You shall arise and have mercy upon Zion, for the time to favor her. Yes, the set time is come. For your servants take pleasure in her stones and favor the dust thereof. So the heathen shall fear the name of Yahweh, and all the kings of the earth your glory. When Yahweh shall build up Zion, he shall appear in his glory.
Mm-hmm.
He will regard the prayer of the destitute and not despise their prayer.
He shall regard the prayer of the destitute and not despise their prayer. They are praying from a different point. They have a different perspective than a person who has this and have that and have that. And we got all of these things and still pray for more. And we believe that we're lacking. The houses we live in are castles in another country. Go ahead, bro.
This shall be written for the generation to come, and the people which shall be created shall praise Yahweh. For he has looked down from the height of his sanctuary, from heaven did Yahweh behold the earth, to hear the groaning of the prisoner, to loose those that are appointed to death.
To loose those that, I consider that. To hear the groaning of the prisoner. And understand that's part of the judgment that was going to befall Israel if we didn't walk in his culture. And we understand that the prison system in United States of America is worse than any other prison system on the face of the planet. There is none other like it. It was created at the so-called abolishment of slavery. That's why no other country has anything like it. It was created for us. Then the people walk around and look down on us and say, they all criminals. The criminal justice system was created for us. It was created to make us back slaves, but legally. That's why we went over some of those things about the prison system and this whole part of the prison labor. Once they make you a prisoner, you're working for 25 cents an hour. And now it's legal slavery. So they make a set of laws, go into certain neighborhoods, and certain ones are already allotted for the prison system. That's their free workforce. This is how they can compete with the other nations like China who don't have any labor laws. They can just work the people to death, and they die, they just push them over somewhere and put in the next one. Well, same thing that happened. There are prisoners who died doing that labor. I know people who have gotten gravely hurt doing prison work. They are forever maimed. They will never walk the same again, ever. Working inside of a prison where they were getting 52 cents an hour. Go ahead.
To declare the name of Yahweh in Zion and his praise in Jerusalem. When the people are gathered together and the kingdoms to serve Yahweh. He weakened my strength in the way. He shortened my days. I said, O my Elohim, take me not away in the midst of my days. Your years are throughout all generations. Of old have you laid the foundation of the earth, and the heavens are the work of your hands. They shall perish, but you shall endure. Yes, all of them shall wax old like a garment. As a vesture shall you change them, and they shall be changed. But you are the same, and your years shall have no end. The children of your servants shall continue, and their seed shall be established before you.
All right, let's go to Romans chapter 8. Romans chapter 8, and we're going to start that at verse 18.
For I reckon that the sufferings of this present time are not worthy to be compared with the glory which shall be revealed in us. For the earnest expectation of the creature waits for the manifestation of the sons of Elohim.
Waits for the manifestation of the sons of Elohim. My elder say he used to run into older Gentiles that say, we waiting on y'all to stand up and take your rightful place in the earth so we can be saved from all this mess. Man, there are people who know. It's not a very popular saying for them to say, especially around their people. But if you let them know that you know, you'll be surprised who might pull you to the side and say a little bit. Go ahead.
For the creature was made subject to vanity, not willingly, but by reason of him who have subjected the same in hope. Because the creature itself also shall be delivered from the bondage of corruption in the glorious liberty of the children of Elohim.
You got to understand, the earth is almost uninhabitable. Look at all of the things that are happening in the earth. The earth itself is waiting for the manifestation of the sons of Elohim. The land is supposed to keep a Sabbath. So if you're talking about people not keeping the Sabbath, you know the land ain't keeping what? The land is like, where the rest I'm supposed to get? Don't these people understand? You ain't supposed to sit here and constantly plow and farm me. Don't they understand I'm supposed to rest? Go ahead.
For we know that the whole creation groans and travails in pain together until now. And not only they, but ourselves also, which have the first fruits of the Spirit, even we ourselves groan within ourselves, waiting for the adoption, to wit, the redemption of our body. For we are saved by hope, but hope that is seen is not hope. For what a man sees, why does he yet hope for it?
Right. Why do you hope for it if you see it? So then we have to look at what level of faith are we dealing with? That we could only move once we know all the particulars. Go ahead.
But if we hope for that we see not, then do we with patience wait for it. Likewise, the Spirit also helps our infirmities, for we know not what we should pray for as we ought.
Right, and this is something that's very difficult for us to understand, that you don't really know what you think you know. See, you know what you're seeing. You don't know what's around the corner, the Spirit does. You don't know why this thing is happening, so you back up to the situation of Hannah. She doesn't understand that Yahweh need a boy to be raised in here. So I'm going to let your sister wife keep afflicting you every time y'all get ready to make this trip. Every time all these males go and make their appearance and the rest of their families stand by and you ain't got no male. I'm going to let this happen. So I move your heart to pray. And then I'm going to answer the prayer that I lead you to pray. Go ahead.
But the Spirit itself makes intercession for us with groanings which cannot be uttered.
Right. So then the Spirit overrides those prayers that you say. But so what your main focus has got to be is approaching humbly and justly. That's your main focus. Your words are really not that important. See, we have those that go to prayer school, because, that's what they had, in the old Christian church. They sing a rah, we sing the prayer, So, and then people get excited. Ooh, man, that brother or sister sure can pray. Why we think that? Because we're listening to the words. The part you didn't hear is the groanings that are not being uttered in your ear or in the ears of the people who stand, that the Spirit is putting in based on the approach of the individual who's praying. But we'll listen to somebody who has certain words. Oh man, they really articulate. Oh, that brother really can pray. He had flying colors in prayer school. Go ahead, bro.
And he that searches the hearts knows what is the mind of the Spirit, because he makes intercessions for the saints according to the will of Elohim.
So he makes intercession for the saints according to the will of Elohim. So as Hannah is making her prayer, the Spirit's moving her. But according to what? According to the will of Elohim. She need this. Elohim need that. All right, we're going to enter into a covenant. Go ahead.
And we know that all things work together for good to them that love Elohim, to them who are the called according to his purpose.
Now, and we know that all things work together for the good to them that love Elohim, to them who are called according to his purpose. When you're called according to his purpose, then that means you're going to do some things or be pushed to deal with some things that don't have anything to do with you. It has something to do with him and his purpose. Or do you just want to serve the way that you want to serve, and that's all you want to hear about it? Go ahead.
For whom he did foreknow, he also did predestinate to be conformed to the image of his Son, that he might be the firstborn among many brethren. Moreover, whom he did predestinate, them he also called, and whom he called, them he also justified, And whom he justified, them he also glorified.
Right. Because we have read many times that they're called and then they're the chosen. All of the called are not going to be chosen. And then there's some that are predestined that they couldn't mess it up if they wanted to. If they got off the path, the whole path will move for them. Go ahead.
What shall we then say to these things? If Elohim be for us, who can be against us? He that spared not his own son, but delivered him up for us all, how shall he not with him also freely give us all things? Who shall lay anything to the charge of Elohim's elect? It is Elohim that justifies. Who is he that condemneth? It is the Mashiach that died, yea, rather, that is risen again, who is even at the right hand of Elohim, who also makes intercessions for us. Who shall separate us from the love of the Mashiach? Shall tribulation, or distress, or persecution, or famine, or nakedness, or peril, or sword? As it is written, for your sake we are killed all the day long. We are accounted as sheep for the slaughter. No, in all things we are more than conquerors through him that loved us. For I'm persuaded that neither death, nor life, nor angels, nor principalities, nor powers, nor things present, nor things to come, nor height, nor depth, nor any other creature shall be able to separate us from the love of Elohim, which is in the Mashiach Yahshua, our Adonai.
Right. And if nothing is able to separate you from that love, then nothing is able to convince you to walk in a suspect manner, in a manner that was not taught by Yahshua. See, we read those things and we say those things, but then when it's time to live those things, we not quite about that. As it is written, these people, their love toward me is taught by their mouth, but their heart is far from me. Let's go to Jeremiah chapter 7.
779.
Jeremiah chapter 7, and we're going to start that at verse 1.
The word that came to Jeremiah from Yahweh, saying, Stand in the gate of Yahweh's house, and proclaim there this word, and say, Hear the word of Yahweh, all you of Yehudah, that enter in at these gates to worship Yahweh. Thus says Yahweh of hosts, the El of Israel, Amend your ways and your doings, and I'll cause you to dwell in this place.
Right, and this is how you go ahead and get yourself in trouble with Israel, all the way around. Once you tell Israel what they need to do, they are going to have a problem with you. Although we said, don't let Elohim talk to us anymore. Let Elohim talk to you, and you come and talk to us. That hereby made a intercessor set up for Israel. But then what does Israel do? Murder the intercessor. Constantly. Because we won't just say that we have a problem with Yahweh. What we will do is have that problem and bring it toward any intercessor that he sends. Anybody who stands in between. But this is what Israel asked for. But this is also what Israel does. Completely punishes the individuals who Yahweh puts in place to help guide us out of a dark way. Go ahead.
Trust you not in lying words, saying, The temple of Yahweh, the temple of Yahweh, the temple of Yahweh are these. For if you thoroughly amend your ways and your doings, if you thoroughly execute judgment between a man and his neighbor.
And see, this is what gets us in trouble. This is what causes most of the issues that we've run into. When we try to explain to somebody, if you thoroughly amend your ways and your doings, if you thoroughly execute judgment between a man and his neighbor, this is when they lash out. Go ahead.
If you oppress not the stranger, the fatherless, and the widow, and shed not innocent blood in this place, neither walk after gods to your hurt, then will I cause you to dwell in this place, in the land that I gave to your fathers, forever and ever.
And you know how difficult that conversation is to have with somebody? That I will, cause you to dwell in this place? I'm already dwelling in the place. What you talking about? No, you don't understand. I'm holding your eviction notice in my hand. No. What I'm giving you is the last opportunity. See, when they give you that last opportunity, no. I'm holding your. See, we are dealing with it from a place of where we are. I'm already here. So then when you talk to people, same thing we have, where we're trying to plead with people here. If you thoroughly amend your ways, they're like, well, I need to do that, but I'm already here. No, you already out the door. You just don't know it. We're trying to give you an opportunity to correct that. If you amend your ways, we're going to tab this eviction notice. Go ahead.
Behold, you trust in lying words that cannot profit. Will you steal, murder, and commit adultery, and swear falsely, and burn innocence onto Baal, and walk after other gods whom you know not, and come and stand before me in this house, which is called by my name, and say, we're delivered to do all these abominations?
Right. You're going to do all of those things and come and stand here and say, am I not in sport? Go ahead.
Is this house, which is called by my name, become a den of robbers in your eyes? Behold, even I have seen it, says Yahweh. But go you now on to my place, which was in Shiloh, where I set my name at the first, and see what I did to it for the wickedness of my people Israel.
Yahweh don't care nothing about destroying the place. And we think, this is the temple. This is where we, do everything. So, Yahweh has to preserve this. No, he don't. That's why it has to be men who are going to stand up, proclaim to Israel, you're going to need to amend your ways. If they don't, they got to get on the other side of that door. Yahweh lets you know the whole purpose of saying this. Go look at my place, which was. The key word there is was in Shiloh. And then he said, hey, what did I do to it? They didn't want to abide by the things that were there. I destroyed. I'm going to do the same thing over and over again. So that means somebody has to stand in the uncomfortable seat of standing before the people saying, amend your ways. We can't do this. No, you can't come in like that. No, you can't do that. People are like, oh no. If we just go in and kill him, then we can live in peace. That's why you have people that like to go to all them shindig house gatherings. No rules. You can come unclean in mind, body, and spirit. Go ahead.
And now, because you have done all these works, says Yahweh, and I spake unto you, rising up early and speaking, but you heard not, and I called you, but you answered not. Therefore will I do unto this house, which is called by my name, wherein you trust, and unto the place which I gave to you and to your fathers, as I have done to Shiloh. And I'll cast you out of my sight, as I've cast out all your brethren, even the whole seed of Ephraim. Therefore pray not you for this people, neither lift up cry nor prayer for them, neither make intercession to me, for I will not hear you.
So then now, as we talk about this thing of prayer, it sounds really nice when people say, I'm gonna pray for you. Now you have to consider something. Well, what is your faith like? What is your walk like? You're going to pray for me. And people are saying in a minute, I'm going to pray for you. Well, I don't think I want your prayer. I seen the things that you do. I want somebody who's going to walk in Yahweh's word, or even make an attempt to walk in Yahweh's word to pray for me. Here it is. The instruction, the situation here says, hey, don't pray for them. I'm telling you now, I ain't going to hear you. So then, those prayers are already hindered because of the walk that the people have. So then you have to consider, if somebody is praying for you and then they worship other gods or deal with all kind of things, where's that prayer going? And who gonna answer? And what might they require of you? Go ahead.
This morning I was talking to my wife about the lady that Emmett Till supposedly whistled at, right?
Right.
She's now talking about she also has felt like she's been a victim since it happened. Anyway, I was talking about, this near deathbed.
I've been so victimized. Oh, yeah, the whistle hurt me. Oh, the fake whistle. Anyway.
This near deathbed or deathbed confessions that people come to. And I'm like, look at the okie doke that they did in putting this God and Lord in the book. That even when they're offering up their confessions and prayers and supplications, it's still going to the wrong person.
Exactly. It's setting them up. But see, that's how Yahweh, it says, deceiving and being deceived. So they have been deceiving all to the point where they have deceived themselves. So then they get on their deathbed. Well, I just want to go ahead and admit, yeah, I really did murder those people. Forgive me, Jesus. You just asked forgiveness in a false name. It didn't carry no weight anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So they spent all this time deceiving, then get on their bed because that's to make them feel comfortable when they take that last breath. But they just deceived themselves. She spent all those years deceiving everybody else. And at the end deceived herself because she felt justified in doing it. And that's what people do, not knowing that you making a confession in the wrong name anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
Verse 17. See you not what they do in the cities of Yehuda and in the streets of Jerusalem? The children gather wood, and the fathers kindle a fire, and the women knead their dough to make cakes to the Queen of Heaven, and to pour out drink offerings onto other gods, that they may provoke me to anger. Do they provoke me to anger? Says Yahweh. Do they not provoke themselves to the confusion of their own faces? Therefore, thus says the Adonai Yah, behold, mine anger and my fury shall be poured out upon this place, upon man and upon beast, and upon the trees of the field, and upon the fruit of the ground, and it shall burn and shall not be quenched. Thus says Yahweh of hosts.
See, this is the judgment that you bring upon your land, your existence, when you don't execute the righteous judgment. But it's uncomfortable to execute righteous judgment. But what's more uncomfortable? Let's say, verse 20. Therefore, thus says the Adonai Elohim, behold, mine anger and my fury shall be poured out upon this place, upon man, upon beast, upon the trees of the field, upon the fruit of the ground, and it shall burn and shall not be quenched. I think I'd rather have Keisha and her husband mad at me than having Yahweh mad at me. They just gonna burn me online. He gonna burn me everywhere. Go ahead.
Thus says Yahweh of hosts, the El of Israel, put your burnt offerings onto your sacrifices and eat flesh. For I spake not unto your fathers, nor commanded them in the day that I brought them out of the land of Egypt, concerning burnt offerings or sacrifices. But this thing commanded I them, saying, obey my voice, and I'll be your Elohim, and you shall be my people.
And that's what we have the biggest problem with, obeying. Go ahead.
And walk you in all the ways that I have commanded you, that it may be well unto you. But they hearkened not, nor inclined their ear, but walked in the counsels and in the imagination of their evil heart, and went backward and not forward.
Right. And you have to watch. I used to hear my elder talk about it all the time, that Yahweh took their knowledge away. And you watch, and people who were educated in the word, as they turn away from Yahweh, you watch them just start declining, going backwards, and their doctrine is getting darker and darker and darker, and they start doing things that, man, you even knew that when you first walked in the door. How is it that you've gotten so far down, you've forgotten even the first things that you knew when you stepped foot in? Go ahead.
Since the day that your fathers came forth out of the land of Egypt, unto this day I have even sent unto you all my servants the prophets, daily rising up early and sending them. Yet they hearken not unto me, nor incline their ear, but harden their neck, they did worse than their fathers.
Now listen, verse 25, since the day that your fathers came forth out of the land of Egypt unto this day, I have even sent unto you all my servants, the prophets, daily rising up early and sending them. Okay? Next line. Yet they hearken not unto me. Hold on. The prophet's talking. But do you hear Yahweh in the voice of his servants? Or do you just say, yeah, that's that brother. You know, that brother think he all that. Or that brother such and such. Do you hear Yahweh's word? And if they don't, they feel justified in their disobedience. Because they don't hear Yahweh's word. And it is amazing how you hear people who, you know, it shows how they pick and choose who they want to listen to. You know, let the Yah be the truth and every man a liar. They take that out of context because that's it basically, we don't want to listen to no man. Right. You're going to leave that man and go listen to another man. Because you keep wanting to have itching ears to find another man that says something that they want to say. Bottom line is this. You're still going to have to deal with a man. But this is their way of going against Yahweh when it gets down to a point that they don't want to deal with. Go ahead.
What's the famous one we hear? I don't do nothing till Yahweh tell me to.
Right, right. Yahweh hadn't raised up prophets. He said point blank, I sent them, and then he said they didn't hear me. Yahweh didn't talk directly to them. It is amazing that here we are over 2,000 years later and people still expecting Yahweh to come to them to tell them to do something. But you know what? Yahweh didn't tell them to go to college. Yahweh didn't tell them to take that job. Yahweh didn't tell them to buy that car. Yahweh didn't tell them to get that woman. But they somehow got all those things, didn't they? Right. Go ahead.
Therefore you shall speak all these words unto them, but they will not hearken to you. You shall also call unto them, but they will not answer you. But you shall say unto them, this is a nation that obeys not the voice of Yahweh their El, nor receives correction. Truth is perished and is cut off from their mouth.
They will not hear the voice of Yahweh, nor will they receive correction. And once you realize that that's what you got in your midst, you have to move it. It will not be corrected. Go ahead.
Cut off your hair, O Jerusalem, and cast it away, and take up a lamentation on high places, for Yahweh has rejected and forsaken the generation of his wrath.
All right, let's go to Yaakov, James chapter 5. We'll go to James chapter 5. And we're going to start that at verse 7.
That's one of the little hidden books.
James chapter 5, and let's start that at verse 7.
I'm still searching for James.
Right in front of 1 Peter. $13 on that.
All right, thanks. Jacob chapter 5 and verse 7. Be patient, therefore, brethren, unto the coming of the Adonai. Behold, the husbandman waits for the precious fruit of the earth, and has long patience for it, until he receive the early and latter rain. Be you also patient, establish your hearts, for the coming of the Adonai draws near.
Right. And we can look at the condition of the things that are happening upon the earth and tell that the coming of our Adonai draws near. I mean, that whole part of wars and rumors of wars, it is happening. I mean, these conflicts are growing daily. I mean, it's like watching a bunch of thugs at the park. Every day it's a new revelation about some more weaponry and fighting. And these countries have enough to destroy the earth. Go ahead.
Grudge not one against another, brethren, lest you be condemned. Behold, the judge stands before the door. Take, my brethren, the prophets, who have spoken in the name of the Adonai, for an example of suffering, affliction, and of patience. Behold, we count them happy which endure. You have heard of the patience of Job, and have seen the end of the Adonai, that the Adonai is very pitiful and of tender mercy. But above all things, my brethren, swear not, neither by heaven, neither by the earth, neither by any other oath, but let your yes be yes and your no be no, lest you fall into condemnation.
Right, because all of those other things are going to lead to situations. If your yes is yes, your no is no, then that is what it is. But when your answer is, well, no, you know, I gotta go to such and such. That's why I can't do this. Then they're gonna find a way to navigate. Well, you know, I just talked to such and such. They said that's not, you know what I'm saying? They're not gonna be able to do that today. I talked them out of it. So that means you can go with me to go do this thing. If your no was just no, you wouldn't have that problem. Well, no, I don't. Too many words behind that. Well, I think. Too many words. See, people know you're serious about your walk when they say, you know, hey, I want to go over here. No. And you're going to start doing something else. Go ahead.
Is any among you afflicted? Let him pray. Is any merry? Let him sing psalms. Is any sick among you? Let him call for the elders of the church, and let them pray over him, anointing him with oil in the name of the Adonai.
See, part of this is speaking to the elders of the church. This is, you got to come out of your own comfort zone and admit that you're having an issue, which is our first problem.
I want to go and deal with this privately. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't really want nobody to know what's happening.
Folks have serious medical issues and won't say nothing to nobody. Go ahead.
And the prayer of faith shall save the sick, and the Adonai shall raise him up. And if he have committed sins, they shall be forgiven him. Confess your faults one to another, and pray one for another.
Right. Now, why is that there? Confess your faults one to another and pray one for another. Let's say that you have done something and you have made yourself filthy before Elohim. He ain't hearing your prayer. But guess what? He may hear your brothers. He may hear your sisters. Go ahead.
That you may be healed. The effectual fervent prayer of a righteous man avails much.
Right. See? And this is also how people use you for your prayer too. So be very careful. People get close to you. Get your heart all involved so you can pray for them and then you never see them again. That's why it says pray for those that despitefully use you. See, folks will use you to fix their situation and then throw the thing on you. There was a thing in the news where a woman and a man was arguing or fighting, and the brother went over there to try and calm the situation down. The man killed the brother who tried to set peace in the argument, and then the guy and the woman who were fighting jumped in the car and pulled on off. See, this is how people use you. They'll pull you in. It done happened to me several times. People call you in to deal with their situation, then they turn on you. So now this brother who was trying to help cause peace between these two individuals, now he dead, and then they jump in the car and drive off, speed off together. Go ahead, brother.
Elias was a man subject to like passions as we are, and he prayed earnestly that it might not rain. And it rained not on the earth by the space of 3 years and 6 months. And he prayed again, and the heaven gave rain, and the earth brought forth her fruit. Brethren, if any of you do err from the truth, and one convert him, let him know that he which converts the sinner from the error of his ways shall save a soul from death, and shall hide a multitude of sins.
All right, let's go to Luke chapter 18. See, in being able to confess our faults to one another, we have then the opportunity to receive prayer in another direction other than our own. See, Elkanah knew exactly what Hannah's issue was. He said, "What? Am I not better to you than 10 sons? Why are you grieving?" He knew what her issue was. So that when she made her covenant, he knew not to step on it. Luke chapter 18, and we're going to read verses 1 through 14.
And a certain ruler asked him, saying, Good master, what shall I do to
Wait. Luke 18.
And chapter 1, right?
Luke 18 and verse 1.
Yeah, I started at 18. Sorry about that.
Okay.
And he spake a parable unto them to this end, that men ought always to pray and not to faint, saying, There was in a city a judge, which feared not Elohim, neither regarded man. And there was a widow in that city, and she came unto him, saying, Avenge me of mine adversaries. And he would not for a while, but afterward he said within himself, Though I fear not Elohim, nor regard man, yet because this widow troubles me, I'll avenge her, lest by her continual coming she weary me.
Okay, so what is the point that he's making here? It is about persistence. The person, the judge, is not righteous. He don't care about man or Elohim. But her persistent, continual coming bothers him. If we pray something 2 or 3 times,
Well, I guess God ain't gonna do it. I done prayed it 3 whole times.
go ahead.
And the Adonai said, Hear what the unjust judge says. And shall not Elohim avenge his own elect, which cry day and night unto him, though he bear long with them?
Though he bear long with them. See, he's going to avenge them on his time. See, he's going to avenge them as it suits the will of Elohim. He's going to deal with it, just not on your time. So your enemies believe that they've gotten away with doing all of these creepy little sneaky things against you. Let them think whatever they want to think. He's going to deal with it on his timing. Go ahead.
I tell you that he will avenge them speedily. Nevertheless, when the Son of Man comes, shall he find faith on the earth? And he spake this parable unto certain which trusted in themselves that they were righteous, and despised others. 2 men went up in the temple to pray, the one a Pharisee, and the other a publican. The Pharisee stood and prayed thus with himself: Elohim, I thank you that I am not as other men, are.
Stop. He has already made the whole part in approaching unto Elohim is more about approaching humbly and justly. Look at the puffed up manner in which he has approached. Instead of dealing with himself, he's dealing with everybody else and a thing of what he's not. So we can always find somebody more foul than us and make ourselves look righteous. Because there's always, no matter how dirty you are, there's always somebody dirtier. You can believe that. You can run around here and play in the mud. And they be like, oh my God, he's filthy. Keep on walking down the street, you're going to find somebody that's more filthy than you. They were playing in a deeper mud hole than what you were playing in. Do you then judge your cleanliness based on the person who played in the deeper mud hole? Well, if that's the way you're going to play, you're going to always come up sparkling and shining. You're just going to constantly find somebody dirtier than you. Go ahead.
Extortioners, unjust, adulterers, or even as this publican.
So he had already went far out there. Then he took it personal. He took it personal and went to the other, and understand now, what proceeds out of the mouth is what's in the heart. This shows you the dark manner of this individual's heart. And you try to tell people, I remember some situations when I heard some things coming out of a brother's mouth toward another brother, and I say, hey man, there's something in your heart that ain't right. But you can't tell nobody that. Okay, here it is, the stuff that is coming, this is in his prayer. Do you understand how bad your heart, but you can't tell him that he's in a bad place. He believes that he is seriously justified in letting these things come out of his mouth. This is his prayer. This is how he has approached unto his Elohim. I thank you that I'm not as other men are. This is not praying. This is praying. His whole prayer has something to do with other individuals. I thank you that I am not as other men are. Now, everything now is about extortioners, unjust, adulterers, or even as this publican. This is how he begins his prayer. When we're supposed to entreat our Elohim. Okay? But his prayer is about damning everybody else. Now he gets into the glorification of himself. Go ahead.
I fast twice in the week. I give tithes of all that I possess. And the publican, standing afar off, would not lift up so much as his eyes onto heaven, but smote upon his breast, saying, Elohim, be merciful to me, a sinner.
He looks at himself. And what I want you to pay attention to is all the wording in the Pharisee's prayer. And then look at the wording in the publican's prayer. Elohim, be merciful to me, a sinner. The other one, I thank thee that I'm not as other men are, extortioners, unjust, adulterers, even as this publican. I fast twice a week and give tithes of all that I possess. A lot of words. Heart wasn't there. Go ahead.
I tell you, this man went down to his house justified rather than the other. For everyone that exalts himself shall be abased, and he that humbles himself shall be exalted.
So if we approach humbly and justly, we have already done the best part of our prayer already. It was in the approach. Let's go to Ecclesiastes chapter 4. Ecclesiastes chapter 4, and we're going to read verses 1 through 13.
So I returned and considered all the oppressions that are done under the sun. And behold, the tears of such as were oppressed, and they had no comforter. And on the side of their oppressors there was power, but they had no comforter. Wherefore I praise the dead which are already dead more than the living which are yet alive. Yes, better is he than both they which has not yet been, who has not seen the evil work that is done under the sun. Again, I considered all travail, and every right work, that for this a man is envied of his neighbor. This is also vanity and vexation of spirit. The fool folds his hands together and eats his own flesh. Better is an handful with quietness than both the hands full with travail and vexation of spirit. Then I returned, and I saw vanity under the sun. There is one alone, and there's not a second. Yea, he has neither child nor brother. Yet is there no end of all his labor. Neither is his eye satisfied with riches. Neither says he, for whom do I labor, and bereave my soul of good? This is also vanity. Yes, it is a sore travail.
Right, and we've gotten so caught up into all of these things and possessing this and possessing that. We're making really nice aquariums when this place go underwater. Go ahead.
Two are better than one, because they have a good reward for their labor. For if they fall, the one will lift up his fellow.
Right, but see, we want to be islands. See, we don't want to mention certain things about what we have going on. So then that means when it comes down to it, there's only us that's praying. How somebody can help lift you up? Go ahead.
But woe to him that is alone when he falls,
Uh-huh.
for he has not another to help him up. Again, if two lie together, then they have heat. But how can one be warm alone? And if one prevail against him, two shall withstand him. And a threefold cord is not quickly broken.
A threefold cord is not quickly broken. If we are to do those things and confess our faults to one another, then we put ourselves in situations whereby we can have prayers coming up to Elohim in different directions from different individuals. Go ahead.
Better is a poor and wise child than an old and foolish king who will no more be admonished.
All right. As far as I want to go right there. Let's go to 2 Chronicles chapter 34.
Second Chronicles chapter 34 and verse 1. Uzziah was 8 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned in Jerusalem 31 years. And he did that which was right in the sight of Yahweh, and walked in the ways of David his father, and declined neither to the right hand nor to the left.
Now, if you notice, the people who walk in the righteous way are called sons of David. Understand, all these had the same lineage, okay? When you talk about these kings, okay, they're coming from the same lineage. But some of them will be called sons, and the other ones are not. Just like they're sons of Elohim, and they're sons of the wicked one. Yahweh created all flesh. Why are they not all his sons? Because they will not all adhere to his instruction. Only sons do that. Go ahead.
For in the 8th year of his reign, while he was yet young, he began to seek after the Elohim of David his father. And in the 12th year, he began to purge Yehuda and Jerusalem from the high places and the groves and the carved images and the molten images. And they break down the altars of Baalim in his presence, and the images that were on high above them he cut down, and the groves and the carved images and the molten images he brake in pieces, and made dust of them, and strawed it upon the graves of them that had sacrificed unto them.
You understand now? You make a lot of enemies when you do this kind of stuff. And what he's doing is forcing Israel to operate correctly according to the culture that was given unto us. But you make a lot of enemies doing that. Go ahead.
And he burnt the bones of the priests upon their altars, and cleansed Yehuda and Jerusalem. And so did he in the cities of Manasseh and Ephraim and Simeon, even unto Naphtali, with their mettocks round about. And when he had broken down the altars and the groves, and had beaten the graven images into powder, and cut down all the idols throughout all the land of Israel, he returned to Jerusalem.
Now, where he get that thought from? Why he beating these things and grinding them into powder? Where you get that from?
Moshe.
Yeah. That come from Moshe. Moshe grinded the powder and then made them drink it. Go ahead.
Now in the 18th year of his reign, when he had purged the land and the house, he sent Shaphan the son of Azaliah.
Hold on, stop. I need you to. Verse 8 says, now in the 18th year of his reign. He was 8 years old when he started it. See, some jobs are long. Sometimes we'll look at a job and be like, you know what, that's gonna take too long. I don't want that one. I want instant gratification. I want something I can finish today. Go ahead.
He sent Shaphan the son of Azaliah and Maaseiah the governor of the city, and Joah the son of Joahaz the recorder, to repair the house of Yahweh his Elohim. And when they came to Hilkiah the high priest, they delivered the money that was brought into the house of Elohim, which the Levites that kept the doors had gathered of the hand of Manasseh and Ephraim, and of all the remnant of Israel, and of all Yehudah and Benjamin, and they returned to Jerusalem.
Now some people might say that maybe this was out of order. You know, he fixed other stuff before he got to the house. But if he goes and sets up to the house, they still worshiping all this other stuff. He removes all this other stuff first. Then he makes it to the house. Go ahead.
And they put it in the hand of the workmen that had the oversight of the house of Yahweh. And they gave it to the workmen that wrought in the house of Yahweh to repair and amend the house. Even to the artificers and builders gave they it, to buy hewn stone and timber for couplings, and to the floor the houses which the kings of Yehudah had destroyed. And the men did the work faithfully, and the overseers of them were Yahath and Obadiah, the Levites of the sons of Merari, and Zechariah and Mushallam, the sons of the Kohathites, to set it forward, and other of the Levites, all that could skill of instruments of music. Also they were over the bearers of burdens, and were overseers of all that wrought the work in any manner of service, and of the Levites that were scribes and officers and porters. And when they brought out the money that was brought in the house of Yahweh, Hilkiah the high priest found a book of the law of Yahweh given by Moshe. And Hilkiah answered and said to Shaphan the scribe, I have found the book of the law in the house of Yahweh. And Hilkiah delivered the book to Shaphan.
What we don't really understand is how precious a book was during that time. See, everybody got their own book. You know, you have to understand that it was a time that, okay, yeah, the priest had a book and the king had a book. Man, it was a really big thing to have your own book. Now we got books, we throw them, they in the back of the car, they got oil on them. Can't even read, you know what I'm saying, Matthew, because they done check their oil with Matthew. Go ahead, bro.
And Shaphan carried the book to the king, and brought the king word back again, saying, all that was committed to your servants, they do it. And they have gathered together the money that was found in the house of Yahweh, and have delivered it into the hand of the overseers and to the hand of the workmen. Then Shaphan the scribe told the king, saying, Hilkiah the priest has given me a book. And Shaphan read it before the king. And it came to pass, when the king had heard the words of the law, that he rent his clothes. And the king commanded Hilkiah, and Ahiakam the son of Shaphan, and Abdon the son of Micah, and Shaphan the scribe, and Asaiah a servant of the king's, saying, Go inquire of Yahweh for me, and for them that are left in Israel and in Yehudah, concerning the words of the book that is found. For great is the anger of Yahweh that is poured out upon us, because our fathers have not kept the word of Yahweh, to do after all that is written in this book. And Hilkiah and they that the king had appointed went to Huldah the prophetess, the wife of Shalem, the son of Tikvath, the son of Hesrah, keeper of the wardrobe. Now she dwelt in Jerusalem in the college, and they spake to her to that effect. And she answered them, Thus says Yahweh Elohim of Israel, Tell you the man that sent you to me. Thus says Yahweh, behold, I'll bring evil upon this place and upon the inhabitants thereof, even all the curses that are written in the book which they have read before the king of Yehuda, because they have forsaken me and have burnt incense unto other gods, that they might provoke me to anger with all the works of their hands. Therefore my wrath shall be poured out upon this place, and shall not be quenched. And as for the king of Yehuda, who sent you to inquire of Yahweh, so shall you say unto him, Thus says Yahweh Elohim of Israel, concerning the words which you have heard. Because your heart was tender, and you did humble yourself before Elohim.
Listen.
When you heard his words against this place, and against the inhabitants thereof, and humbled yourself before me, and did rend your clothes, and wept before me, I have even heard you also, says Yahweh. Behold, I'll gather you to your fathers, and you shall be gathered to your grave in peace. Neither shall your eyes see all the evil that I'll bring upon this place, and upon the inhabitants of the same. So they brought the king word again.
So it matters how you approach. And you try to get that point across to people, and it's just, if their heart is not there, they're never going to see that. Go ahead.
So the king sent and gathered together all the elders of Yehuda and Jerusalem. And the king went up into the house of Yahweh, and all the men of Yehuda and the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and the priests and the Levites and all the people, great and small. And he read in their ears all the words of the book of the covenant that was found in the house of Yahweh. And the king stood in his place and made a covenant before Yahweh, to walk after Yahweh, and to keep his commandments and his testimonies and his statutes with all his heart and with all his soul, to perform the words of the covenant which are written in this book. And he caused all that were present in Jerusalem and Benjamin to stand to it. And the inhabitants of Jerusalem did according to the covenant of Elohim, the El of their fathers. And Josiah took away all the abominations out of all the countries that pertain to the children of Israel, and made all that were present in Israel to serve, even to serve Yahweh their Elohim. And all this day they departed not from following Yahweh, the El of their fathers.
Now, you have to pay attention. He made them serve, and all the days of his life, they did not depart. See, Israel talks that talk, but the bottom line is, Israel need a woolly bully. Who gonna act a plumb fool when they don't do what's written in this book? But we have had historically a problem every time that individual passes. We just have an issue. And this is why Yahweh puts it upon the men of Israel. Make sure righteous judgment is executed in this place. What that does is make sure that all that doesn't fall on one man. So the righteousness of the whole town is not based on, because this man alive. What happened when he died? If you share those responsibilities, then righteousness and the making of the culture goes ahead without that individual. Let's go to Luke chapter 8. Luke chapter 8, and we're just going to read verses 40 through verse 48.
And it came to pass that when Yahshua's returned, the people gladly received him, for they were all waiting for him. And behold, there came a man named Yairus, and he was a ruler of the synagogue. And he fell down at Yahshua's feet and besought him that he would come into his house. For he had one only daughter, about 12 years of age, and she lay a-dying. But as he went, the people thronged him. And a woman having an issue of blood 12 years, which had spent all her living upon physicians, neither could be healed of any, came behind him, and touched the border of his garment, and immediately her issue of blood stanched.
Right. Now, if you listen to some of those purple guys, they're going to tell you that the woman got healed because she touched the fringes. Well, you have to then pay attention to what comes next and see if it was the fringe or was it the man that healed the woman. Because you think he was the only one that had on fringe? Go ahead.
And Yahshua said, "Who touched me?" Then when all denied, Cephas and they that were with him said, "Master, the multitude thronged you and pressed you, and you say, 'Who touched me?'"
Right, that was a strange question. Because, when he says thronging and pushing you, they all grabbing at him. He's moving from side to side, just trying to walk. Because people are pulling, pushing, they touching, they doing all of that. Then he says, "Who touched me?" You know how strange that conversation is? What? You're playing, right? About 1,000 people done touched you. What do you mean, who touched me? What? That question was mind-boggling. But he knew something was different about this touch than all the other touches. And if it was just the fringe, why didn't all those other people have the same thing? Why didn't they have healings and all of this? Go ahead.
And Yahshua said, "Somebody has touched me, for I perceive that virtue is gone out of me."
Right. Now, was the virtue in the fringe? The virtue came out of him. The virtue didn't come out of the fringe. See, these kind of people that don't understand that even in the time of Moshe, the garments that the priests used were holy, and they had to take those off or they would sanctify the people with those garments. So now they make it be about the garment. No, it's about the individual and where that individual has been. They had been in the presence of the holies of holies with those clothing. They took them off. Go ahead.
And when the woman saw that she was not hid, she came trembling, and falling down before him, she declared unto him before all the people for what cause she had touched him, and how she was healed immediately.
And how she was healed immediately. Go ahead.
And he said unto her, "Daughter, be of good comfort. Your faith has made you whole. Go in peace."
Right. As he would ask, "Do you believe that I can do this?" Go in peace because your faith has made you whole. We had a question about, can a woman approach unto the altar? When you have the holy setup of things, especially when it goes forward, understand, women have the right to do some things now that they didn't have the opportunity to do before. When you talk about those things, here we have a woman's approach, and here's her intercessor. See, Yahweh has an order whereby the men must make an appearance, right? The men are going and doing all of those things. But when there's not a man present, then Yahshua is that intercessor directly for that woman. But a woman who has a husband can't bypass her husband and go straight to Yahshua unless her husband ain't quite right. Then Yahweh gives her access. Very interesting how he does things. Consider how Yahweh made the path for Hannah. How Elijah happened to be sitting and watching her as he thinks she's drunk. See, Yahweh is causing her path to go. And it didn't matter whether she was at the altar or not. Yahweh put her right in the place for everything to be said and done for her. Go ahead, brother.
The question just jumps out because it says that, she basically gave herself up when she said she couldn't be hid.
Mm-hmm.
But before that, the disciples are saying the multitude touches you. What in her made her say, "Uh-oh, I'm busted"? There are so many people around, she could have just ditched off in the crowd and gone.
Conscious. Because he kept asking. See, some people don't have that, bro.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have that. They'll sit there and lie for 20, 30, 40 years straight. Long as they don't think they caught, they not coming. They ain't coming out. But somebody who has conscience said, "I can't be hid no more. Why do you think that? Because their conscience is telling them that. When somebody don't have a conscience, brother, they'll ride it out. They'll ride it out. Yeshua himself got to come down from heaven and say, it was him. That's the only way they, all right, okay, it was me.
He can.
You know? That's it. But when you have conscience, it don't ride out that long. Your conscience activates and says, look, man, I can't keep doing this. But let us hear the conclusion of this matter. Let's go to John chapter 4. John chapter 4, and we're going to start that at verse 7, and we're going to read it through 2:27. John chapter 4 and verse 7 through verse 27.
There comes a woman of Samaria to draw water. Yeshua says unto her, give me to drink. For his disciples were gone away unto the city to buy meat.
Now, part of these things, there's so many different aspects to some of the stories. You have to look at the same story from a different angle. As we're dealing with the situation of prayer, understand what we are doing. We are praying to Yeshua. These are encounters where they're actually talking to the individual who we need to pray to. Consider that. This is a prayer in life. Okay, now read.
For his disciples were gone away unto the city to buy meat. Then says the woman of Samaria unto him, how is it that you, being a Yehudi, ask drink of me, which am a woman of Samaria? For the Yehudis have no dealings with the Samaritans. Yeshua answered and said unto her, if you knew the gift of Elohim, and who it is that says to you, give me to drink, you would have asked of him, and he would have given you living water. The woman says unto him, sir, you have nothing to draw with, and the well is deep. From whence then have you that living water? Are you greater than our father Jacob, which gave us the well, and drank thereof himself, and his children, and his cattle? Yeshua answered and said unto her, whosoever drinks of this water shall thirst again. But whosoever drinks of the water that I shall give him shall never thirst. But the water that I shall give him shall be in him a well of water springing up into everlasting life. The woman says unto him, sir, give me this water, that I thirst not, neither come hither to draw.
And now she wants to enter into this covenant. Go ahead.
Yeshua says unto her, go, call your husband, and come hither. The woman answered and said, I have no husband. Yeshua said unto her, you have well said, I have no husband.
You have well said, I have no husband. Now understand, you have this situation as far as the direction. The word says, if the woman will learn anything, let her learn in silence or ask her husband at home. Well, Yeshua says, by your matrimony that you've been engaged in, you don't have a real situation to go to. So what? So he is that for her. Go ahead.
For you have had 5 husbands, and he whom you now have is not your husband. In that said you truly. The woman says unto him, sir, I perceive that you're a prophet. Our fathers worshipped in this mountain, and you say that in Jerusalem is the place where men ought to worship? Yeshua says unto her, woman, believe me, the hour comes when you shall neither in this mountain nor yet at Jerusalem worship the Father. You worship you know not what. We know what we worship, for salvation is of the Yehudis.
Now, this is also, whether you understand that or not, this is a manufactured meeting. If you go before that, that this is taking place as they separate, the disciples separate. So this meeting with the woman is manufactured. He needed to have an encounter with the woman out of the presence of his disciples. Keep reading.
But the hour comes, and now is, when the true worshipers shall worship the Father in spirit and in truth, where the Father seeks such to worship him. Elohim is a spirit, and they that worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth. The woman says unto him, I know that the Messiah comes, which is called the Anointed One. When he is come, he will tell us all things. Yahshua says unto her, I that speak unto you am he.
Now hold on. He healed people before, and the demon said, I know you who you. He said, hold your peace and come out of her. Don't tell these people who I am. He openly told this woman who he was. And the question was, can a woman approach unto an altar? This is better than going unto any altar. Go ahead.
I mean, even with the disciples, he said, hey, who do people say I am? And who do you say I am?
Right. He told her right off the rip, I am. He didn't tell nobody else. He was avoiding. Don't you tell them people. Now you come out of that demon, but don't you tell them. Them demons know him. But he's openly telling her. Go ahead.
And upon this came his disciples and marveled that he talked with the woman.
Now, you see that? They marvel. Why are you talking with her? You see why he needed them to be gone? See why he needed them to be gone? Why are you talking with her? I mean, he having like a real biblical conversation with her. Why are you talking to her? Yeah. Y'all go get some meat. I got something to do right here. Go ahead.
Yet no man said, what seeketh you? Or why talk you with her?
Right. They all wondered though. See? But what he did was manufacture a way for her to get close to him. And if you approach unto your Elohim the right way, he will manufacture a way for you to get close to him. That's all that we're going to do for today. Remember the Sabbath to keep it holy. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat